Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then hi, my name is Erica, and today I'm going to talk about a movement that I perceive to have ableist undertones. Sorry, I'm just flipping my notebook to get to the page that I'm on. If you're wondering what this is, it's an electric blue lemonade crush. I had one from Applebee's last night, so we tried to recreate it, and it's good. And I didn't want the ice to melt while I was filming a video, so I'm gonna have it during the video. Let's see how that goes. But before I get into this, I just want to give a disclaimer that I don't want any hate to be sent to anybody involved, and I mean no disrespect to the woman that created this movement. I just want to bring awareness to ableism and how ableism hides in seemingly innocuous places. So the movement is, I don't know if I would say it's a movement, but it's a hashtag, which I have already talked about on this channel before, but today I want to go a bit deeper into the hashtag and why I perceive it to be ableist. But the hashtag is called hashtag normalize normal bodies. Now that doesn't seem offensive at all, just looking on the surface. But in case you all don't know, I am pursuing my master's in disability studies, and we've spent an entire week talking about the concept of normalcy and how normalcy. Why did I say it like normalcy? Oh geez. But we've been talking about the concept of normalcy and how it is often juxtaposed with disabled and also races and ethnic identities that aren't considered white. And so the concept of normal to me and to many scholars, and I don't really consider myself to be a scholar personally, but it has a lot of ableist undertones. Now, normal first came into the lexicon at about 1840. This was at a time where people were trying to redefine like ideas of what the ideal is, because you have like back in ancient Greece, they had the idea, and I also studied ancient Greece in undergrad. They had an idea of an ideal, but they didn't have like a baseline for what was considered normal. And the ideal wasn't achievable, so it didn't put pressure on people to achieve it. You know, like if you were a woman in ancient Greece, you weren't expected to look like Aphrodite, like, because you couldn't. There was no real way to do that because she was a goddess. But now, when the concept of normalcy came about, it also came about during the time where statistics were very big and people were hell-bent, for lack of a better word, on like defining what is average, what is above average, which was a good thing, and then below average, which is abnormal, or maybe even more fitting, is subnormal. Now, I know this is a lot of like academic stuff, and I don't want this video to come across this way, but don't worry, I'm not just gonna talk about history and words, but and the concept of normalcy was also used in eugenics. People wanted to weed out what they considered defective people, which often meant disabled, people of color, poor people, women that got pregnant out of wedlock. Like, basically, the concept of normalcy, and hopefully you can tell by what I've been saying, but the concept of normalcy came about at a time where we were trying to keep what we didn't want out, and we were trying to achieve this idea of perfection, which basically just meant keeping out people we didn't like. And when I say we, I mean like America and American culture, and this has a lot to do with Ellis Island and how they would inspect prospective immigrants to see if they were fit to come into this country, and basically they would exclude anyone that wasn't white, anybody that wasn't able-bodied. Literally, like, if you even walked with a slight limp, they would use that as a reason to not allow you to stay in this country, which is complete BS. But that's how it was. And so now, okay, so editing me here, I just wanted to add some quick points, and also to just show you the Instagram page for the Normalize Normal Bodies platform and movement. And as you can see, well, it hasn't had any activity since June 2020, so I will give them that, because they can't really be expected to change their ways if they haven't posted anything. But as you can see, there's like no visibly disabled people being highlighted on this page, and that is extremely damaging, because here's the thing: if a movement, especially a movement that's supposed to be about accepting different types of bodies, if you're not including visibly disabled people, it's not really a movement that I would like to be a part of. And I kind of think of it as, like, I don't want to be the caboose on your train to just show that you're inclusive. If you're not going to include people that look like me from the start, then I don't want to be your afterthought that can just make you feel better about yourself. Yeah, getting back to the hashtag normalize normal bodies. What inspired me to make this video was Mik Zazon, who is the founder of this hashtag. She recently posted on Instagram that a brand actually co-opted her phrase, the clothing brand Boohoo, and they didn't give her any credit. She hasn't received any like monetary reward from monetary reward. I don't think that's the right word, but she hasn't received compensation from the brand, so she is hooing the brand. Now, I am not a lawyer. I haven't gone to law school. I don't intend to go to law school. But I'm struggling to understand it because I'm like, that phrase isn't really unique. To me, it's generic. But more importantly, and this has nothing to do with her lawsuit or the brand Boohoo or how brands basically co-opt movements that average people start. But I think the phrase is rooted in ableism because while Mik Zazon, I hope I'm saying her name right, she has said she has lupus, which is an autoimmune disorder. The phrase normal was used to make it like having a deformed body, and I know I hate the word deformed, but having a body that is visibly disabled was considered unattractive and not valuable in a capitalistic society. But Mik is a fairly thin, white presenting, able-bodied presenting, even if she does have an illness or disability, she still has highly privileged. Like, she's not going to be discriminated against because she looks a certain way. And that is what I mean when I say highly privileged. I'm not saying that you can't have a disability and that it won't affect your life, but it's not the same as having a disability that is visible, so you face discrimination just based on how you look. And I know that with this, I'm kind of walking a tightrope because I realize that people with disabilities and illnesses that may not be visible, this can be a sore subject. But I am someone with both visible and non-visible disabilities, and at least from my experience, the discrimination I face because of my visible disabilities, more specifically my speech. Like, every time I apply for a job, I believe that's how I get discriminated against because of how I talk. People perceive me to be incompetent just because how I talk, even if I can know what I'm talking about, and if I'm perfectly capable of being able to do the job, I get discriminated against, and there's no way to prove that because nobody directly said, oh, we didn't hire you because we realized you're disabled and we didn't think you could do it. And one question I would like to ask, and I don't have the answer to this question, and that is why I'm making this video, because I don't have the answers. But can an idea of normal ever exist that isn't ableist, given the history of the word and the history of American society in particular, but also just many societies around the world? Can there ever be an idea of normal that doesn't have ableist undertones, whether intended or not? Or is it just one of those words that we should just abandon because of its roots? And I'm not saying that it's comparable to like a slur, but I am saying that given its ableist history and the connotations attached to it, like, I don't know if I can ever reconcile that word and see myself as someone who can fit into this idea of normal. And to be honest, I don't even know if I would want to be considered normal, given the history. I'd much rather acknowledge the history and take pride in the fact that, like, I'm not normal, and I shouldn't have to be worthy. And that's really my take on the normalized normal bodies movement, or hashtag, or whatever you would like to call it. And that's how I feel about like mainstream body positivity in general. And I have made a video on that. I will try to link it in the cards if I remember. If not, I'll link it down below, hopefully. But I feel like mainstream body positivity has been co-opted by people with bodily privilege, and it's becoming more about self-love and having a positive body image instead of activism, which body positivity originated as a political movement to say, like, hey, like, I don't have to fit this idea of normal to deserve respect and to have basic rights and access to basic things that other people get just because of their bodily privilege. And I just feel like,
back to body positivity, I understand that we need to like overcorrect to a point to accept all bodies, but it's also gotten to the point where, like, okay, I'm ashamed to be skinny, I'm ashamed to be this, I'm ashamed to be that. And unless you just like accept what you look like, you're a bad person. And if you're naturally really thin, you're still a bad person. And that, I don't know. I told you this was gonna get kind of ranty.
I feel like the people who've co-opted it have profited off of it, but they've also watered down the message to appease to the masses, because of course not everybody's into activism and like let's change the system, but it's much more palatable to say, oh, people like me deserve to like myself. But it's like, that's not what body positivity was originally about. And I think that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it or if you learned something, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you have not and you would like to see more of my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I know I didn't drink my drink at all during this video, but that's because when I get to like talking about stuff that matters to me, and also I had to read out of my notebook for this because of some like history and stuff that I don't know off the top of my head, and I will link my sources down below. My source is my disability studies textbook, so fair warning, that's very pricey. So unless you're a disability studies student or scholar, I don't know if it's feasible or even I'm not going to use the word appropriate, but I don't know if you would want to go out and buy that. But I will link my sources down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.